All right, guys, so I'm coming at y'all from Singapore. So I'm here by Clarke Quay. This is kind of one of the main touristy areas of Singapore. It's a very, very nice area. I've gone officially full side of other side of the coin. So you go from India to Singapore. It is a very, very big transition. There's some culture shock. I mean, I've been here, I don't know how many times before, many, many times before in the past. But coming from India to here, coming from Chennai, India to Singapore is just a complete slap in the face. I mean, when I got to the airport a couple of days ago, I really get off the plane. I go down to get my bag. There's very, very relaxing music playing when I wait for my bag. Everyone, for the most part, is quite orderly. There's not a bunch of people running around trying to get their bags and get out. As soon as I get my bag, I walk out of the terminal. I'm not hounded by a bunch of people. I basically can just go out and at my leisure, go get some coffee or go get a snack. I can go check out the Jewel, which is a big shopping mall they've built in the last couple of years at the airport. If you have a long way over here, it's worth checking out. They have a really, really cool kind of waterfall in the middle of it. Never really seen anything like it at an airport before. There's no airport quite like Changi. And you have Dubai, and you have Doha, and you have Changi. They're the three biggest and best in the world, in my opinion. I mean, Incheon's nice, but these three are on a totally different level. And coming here to Singapore, it's so developed, it's so comfortable, and it's also so expensive. So my dad's here actually. He's back chilling, going to bed soon. He and I went out tonight and we got some beers, and we paid, I think, 19 bucks or 20 bucks Singaporean for a beer. And that's basically more money than I spent in a full day in India. So food I would eat would normally be about probably $3 Singapore dollars, $4 Singapore dollars, so about $2, $2.50 US. Hotels, normally stayed in cheaper places. A couple of times I had to stay in nicer places. I just couldn't deal with staying in mosquito pits or being eaten alive at night. You got to do it a few times, but at the same time, like if I get sick or if something happens to me, then my whole trip and my whole thing falls apart. So there's a limit and there's a line for me of, okay, this is good, this is not going to work. And if something's not going to work, then I'm not going to subject myself to just ruining my health and ruining my whole entire life, potentially even I can ruin my business by getting some horrible disease from an $8 hotel room. So I had to stay in the Holiday Inn and pay $20 a couple of nights, and then spent one night in the Novotel. Or 2 nights in the Novotel, which was about 40 bucks. And that was a really, really nice place. Really glad I did that. It was a really, really welcome change. So we're here by Clarke Quay. I'm actually, I think, gonna go down and take the underpassage. This is kind of the main Riverwalk. So Singapore River's here. It's a very, very nice, very developed area. It's very clean. If you come to Singapore, I highly recommend you visit here. It's very, very tourist friendly. You can walk pretty much 24 hours a day around here. You don't have to worry about like getting your wallet stolen or getting hit by a motor scooter. People here generally follow rules to a T, versus in India where they have rules and maybe a couple of people will follow them and most people will just completely ignore them. And one of the reasons why I think Singapore has been able to develop so quickly in the last 50 years versus India, where you kind of look back and you look at their history in a way, Okay, modern history, both were British colonies. India was the crown jewel of the British Empire. Singapore was a very, very important crown colony, along with Penang and a couple other colonies in modern day Malaysia today. It's a bar area, so if you come to Clarke Quay, this is a whole street of bars. And then behind me as well, you keep going, there's tons of bars. And they have decent happy hours where you're gonna pay $8 Singapore, so about $6 US on up for a beer. Excuse me. Hello, you're good, you're good. Thank you. Most of the people around here, a lot of local expats working, hanging out. Hello. And you've got pretty much every kind of food you could want, so you can get Indian food here if you miss it. Hello. Yeah. You can get crab. They got Mexican food, Middle Eastern food, Japanese, probably a Korean place. There is a Chinese place. There's a Shandong restaurant, so that's Eastern China. You got roast duck, so pretty much anything. Live seafood as well, where they'll take it, they'll cook it up for you. You've got all of these restaurants here. And when I was in India for the 3 weeks that I was there, the closest that I saw to this was in Goa. And given Goa is a beach destination, yes, there was a beach, there were some restaurants, but there was nothing like this. There was nothing like the investment. There was nothing like the service. There was nothing like, I guess, even the cold chain of being able to get fresh ingredients from wherever they would come from. I guess flown into Goa and then trucked to the restaurant. I mean, here everything is seamless and it's so efficient. It's so well run. And you go to a place like India where it's just, there's a million different rules going on, and you've got 1.4 billion people out there hustling, trying to do what they can to make it that day. Versus here, where you have a system, everybody here understands the system, they know how the system works, and ultimately they know they will be able to profit from the system. They may not be able to maximize what they can every single time, but in the long run, the system is going to propel them forward and farther, and propel society forward and farther, much more than a system like India, where 1.4 billion people going in 1.4 billion directions. It's much harder to come out and have a sustainable economic growth period within a country. You look at a place like Singapore, we've had economic growth here for a very long time. We've had a couple of bad periods as well, like in the 60s, and after the age of financial crisis, it was really, really bad here. In the mid-90s, after 97. But these guys have been able to pick up the pieces every single time and actually put together recoveries and continue to bring in more and more and more foreign investment, but they've never over leveraged themselves. India's not been a big participant in a lot of this, which has kind of helped them out. And you have countries like Thailand and Malaysia and Indonesia that were absolutely smashed by the Asia financial crisis in 1997. Currencies were completely destroyed, investment was totally wiped out. And Korea as well was smashed. They were able to bring it back. But India dodged a lot of, even though they've dodged a lot of these, they've just kind of been sitting on the sidelines continually, where they're not participating in like the R.I.P, they're kind of participating in their own, the program's called, their own development program, where they're trying to primarily focus on South Asia and their neighbors, which I think is good, and then also doing a lot of one-off free trade and focusing on investment from countries like the U.S. and selling weapons to Russia, and working with the Koreans and the Japanese. and the British, and then sending a lot of students to countries like Canada and the United States, Australia and UK, in the hope that they'll get educated, they'll come back, and then once they're educated, they'll be able to tool the economy of India. But you walk around here in Singapore, and a lot of this, I mean, the population here in Singapore, Singaporeans is quite small, similar to like the UAE or Qatar or Bahrain. You have a large expat population, and you have a lot of tourists in here too. A lot of the tourists here just because it's so well connected to all parts of the world that you can fly in here. You can go from the US to Singapore to Indonesia, or you can go from India to Singapore to Australia, or you can go from Korea to Singapore to Indonesia. And you can come here, you can spend a day or two, and then as you spend a day or two here, you'll spend some money, you'll like it, you maybe come back later on. And yeah, it's maybe not a huge destination, but it's a very, very good place, and it's very well connected. It's very easy to connect. And that's something that Singapore has that nowhere else in the world has, the seamlessness of everything here. It's so easy, it's so comfortable if you have the money and the means to pay for it. If you don't, it's a very, very hard place from what I understand, especially if you like want to get a car or you want to get a house. But if you're here on a short-term basis, I think this is probably as good as it can get. It really is. These guys should be really proud of the work that they've done and their country's done in the last 65, 70 years. A lot of that comes back to, I think, the Singaporean government, where when they split from Malaya back in 1965, that basically they didn't really have much. I mean, they have almost no natural resources. The only thing that they have is their location. Lee Kuan Yew wrote about this in the Singapore Story, the book that he wrote. I read this, this was probably 9 years ago now, so quite a while back. But I mean, the Singaporean government recognized early on that, yeah, if we're gonna go it alone, we can't make it alone. We're gonna need help, and we're gonna need as much foreign investment as we can get. And how do we get that? Well, we're gonna have to keep trade duties low, and we're gonna have to basically have a very, very strong and stable government to get investment into the country. And I mean, it worked. It's a small country geographically, and it was very, very, very well located. And you're literally right between Malaysia, you're right between Indonesia, you're pretty much at the Strait of Malacca, or pretty much anything going from China to India that's going around water is going to have to pass by here. So you have an excellent location for a port, for loading goods, for unloading goods, and for basically being able to do transactions as kind of being a central / neutral hub. And these guys were able to capitalize on their real estate, and they're able to capitalize on the geography of Singapore and really, really exploit and take full advantage of it. And I mean, big country like India, they have not really been able to do that. They may be able to do that in the next 10 to 15, but I think it's going to be very, very, very hard for them, because you have so many ethnic groups, you have so many people, you have so many different histories within that country. Here as well, you have something similar, but wow, cool. Bridge right through. In Singapore, it is multi-ethnic, but it's much, much smaller. And Singapore is very focused on merit-based development versus a country like Malaysia, which is more racially based development. That's something that the Singaporean government took to heart when they left from Malaysia back in 1965, I believe it was. My dates might be wrong, my numbers are terrible now, unfortunately. But when they left, one of the main reasons why they left was because They did not want to be subject to Kuala Lumpur, and Kuala Lumpur being basically run by quotas within the government. They wanted to be run and live in a country that was run by people who were the best at their jobs. And that's really what Singapore has tried to do, is they've tried to push the fact that yes, we are very good at what we do, and we're not only good, we're the best. Because if we're not the best, we're not going to make it. We have to be the best. We have to do everything that we can to be the best. I think this is right. Yeah, I gotta keep going down here, and I think I have to cross. But I think that's the court building, the spaceship building you can see up there. I believe is the court building. I could be wrong though. It's kind of a funky spaceship building. I look at the news from time to time here in Singapore and try to look and see what's going on in Southeast Asia, trying to keep up. There's always some crazy court case that's going on, or some local has done something just absolutely ridiculous. And the Singaporean media will always post about, yeah, we're cracking down on crime, and it's like, okay, more upskirting, or some guy and some buddy of his are like, I don't know, doing some crazy rape game with their wives, and it's like, I can't keep up with just ridiculousness that some of the people here do. But Singapore, I guess, it is very, very safe. And in some ways it is kind of sterile, where you don't have a lot of the crime, you don't have a lot of the grime, you don't have a lot of the mess and stuff that you would have in other countries. I mean, for them it's awesome. Like, you live here, okay, great. You live in a very, very comfortable, happy-go-lucky country. You have materially almost everything, at least to a foreigner's point of view, that you could ever want, that you could ever need. It's incredible that they've built this themselves with foreign investment and with some foreign labor in the last 50 to 60 years. And there's just a handful of other countries I can think of on the top of my head. South Korea, Taiwan, Japan post-World War II, Spain, Portugal. They were not nearly as poor, but you have Korea, Singapore, Taiwan. 3 places that a lot of people did not put a lot of faith in back 50, 60 years ago. If you would have said Korea is going to be the country that it is today, people would think you're nuts. Same thing with Taiwan. Same thing with Singapore. People would have probably said, oh, South Africa is going to be one of the strongest, or Argentina. Here's the Merlion Statue. And then you've got the Singapore Flyer right there. Marina Bay Sands right there. So, don't want to pay. Love to go up to the top, never been up there. One day I will. One day. One day I'll stay there. Just to check it out. Go spent the night at Marina Bay Sands. But all of these countries were basically written off. And I thought, okay, yeah, they'll maybe be very poor. They'll have a very, very strong military, one-party states. And yes, Singapore still is a one-party state. That's something a lot of people here don't really talk about and don't really recognize, that yes, it largely is a one-party state. But the economy here is very, very strong. And they've done a very, very good job of developing the country, turning it into what it is today. I mean, I think there is a very, very large group of people, you look at this and you look at the Singaporean model, and people would be willing to say, okay, yeah, I will potentially give up some of my rights to have development, to have riches, to have a good job, to have, you know, strong public health system, to have a strong education system, to be able to wake up and not have to worry about getting robbed potentially on my way to work, or did I lock my door for 10 minutes when I went out to grab something from the convenience store. I mean, back home in the States, like, depending on where you live, it's very, very nice. Or it's absolutely terrible. And there are like neighborhoods in Houston that I've been in, I don't know, evening, not super, super late at night, but like, I'm so glad I have just a little Nissan. If I had something that attracted a lot more attention, yeah, I would be a lot more worried than I am. And it could be just, yeah, I'm very unfamiliar with the area, but you look at it and you go, okay, this is not the best area here. And you look on the crime maps that the police department's making, it's like, ooh, this is not a good area. This is not a good place to be. I don't want to put myself in an area where, yes, I could potentially be in trouble. I could potentially get robbed. Or I could potentially have, you know, something happen to me where it's going to change my life because of one small decision of, oh, I want to go and get, you know, something from the supermarket, and I didn't lock my door. So these guys really do have it good here, and I'm very happy for them. I'm not jealous at all. I'm very happy because they've worked very, very hard to get what they have. People here have very, very long work hours. On the coin of, yes, you have a very nice country. You've got to work hard to have it. You've got to work hard to keep it. So you've got long hours at school. You've got long hours on the job. You've got a lot of stress, a lot of other first world problems. You've got rising housing costs, very expensive costs for getting a car in this country. I mean, when I got my car back home, I went to the dealership, paid cash, and had my car on the street that day. Something like that would never ever happen in Singapore. And I was telling one of my Singaporean friends, just something that like is very, very strange and very different compared to here, where you need a huge, join the queue, get a permit, pay a bunch of money, get your car, keep it for 10 years. After you're 10, you can either scrap it or you can extend it for 10 more years. Versus States, you just paid, I don't know, I pay $20 a month or $20 a year for my inspection, and then I pay $80 a month for my insurance. Texas is kind of expensive. And then you pay $80 a year for car registration, and that's literally it. I mean, it's very, very easy comparatively. And yes, I'm very dependent on my car. I need my car for virtually everything in Texas. But here, you have a car, it's very nice, but you don't need a car, I guess, from the government standpoint. And since the government here is setting the rules, you're subject to it. So if you want to have a car, you can get one, but you're just going to pay a lot of money. So it's a luxury in a way that I have that these people will never have. But at the same time, these people have a luxury of being able to go out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, walk around, be completely safe, that I will never have. So you have that trade-off. Okay, who's better off? And you've got to figure out and define, okay, what is better off? Yeah, I can go to a ballot box and I can choose between 6 or 7 political parties. Here, yes, you have choices. You have a lot of choices. But ultimately, power here has been held by one political party since the beginning of Singapore. And they've done a good job, so people are like, okay, we're not going to vote them out. Japan is similar too, where you have the Japanese political system, the LDP and the DPJ. And the LDP had power for a very, very long time. And the DPJ took over, and it was kind of like, well, see how these guys did? Oh, they didn't do very well? Okay, we're going to go back and just stick with what we know. And Japanese politics is a totally different kettle of fish from Singapore, the US. But at the same time, like, we do have the freedom in the US to go to the ballot box and you can choose whoever you want. If you want Orange Man, he's on the ballot or not, you can still pick him. If you want Grandpa Joe, whether he's on there or not, you can pick him, even if he's losing. You can still stand by what you want. and you still have that opportunity and that option to choose. Not all countries have that, and you can look at it and go, that's stupid, but at the same time, like, you have the ability to go out and protest too in the US virtually anytime you want peacefully. Sometimes if you're going to do a large rally, you do have to get a permit, let the police know. Here you can only do it with a permit, so you have to go to a certain park. You can protest, you can basically go out and have a small demonstration, but it has to be very, very peaceful, which is, look at that and go, that's awesome. In 2020 we had the whole entire country on fire. That's completely wrong. Shouldn't go out and burn businesses. You've had riots before in the US back in the early 90s in LA, the Rodney King riots. That's completely wrong too, burning down a city and burning down people's businesses, burning down their livelihoods. Doesn't help anybody. That's not protesting. Likewise with the police and police brutality, that's not right either. You gotta have a balance with everything. And it really is. It's very, very hard to do. And these guys, I think, are getting somewhere with it though. Where yes, you have a balance, but you have rules that are very, very strict. And those rules are strict and they're well followed and they're well policed. And the people that are making the rules are held accountable. Then yeah, you're getting somewhere. You really are getting somewhere. Do I think every country should be like this? Absolutely not. The world would be a boring, boring place if the world was like Singapore. Coming here for a couple of days is great. Living here for a couple of years, I think, depending on what you're doing, could be great as well. But if the whole world was like this, it would be a boring place, and people eventually would go, okay, we're tired of this shit. We're gonna go stir something up. And rightly so. Rightly so. Man. If you've not made it to Singapore before, this place does have one of the best skylines in the world. It's absolutely gorgeous. And kind of skipped part of it. But once I get over to Gardens by the Bay, then you may be able to see more of it. They have a huge golf course on the other side of this hotel, so the bay kind of extends out on the other part. So the bay and the Singapore River kind of runs up the middle. There's a very, very large golf course, and the golf course is going to be around for about 4.5 more months, closing it up the end of June. 5 more months, I guess. No, almost exactly 5 more months. Still have a couple days till beginning of February. So if you're going to be in Singapore and you want to go to the iconic Marina Bay Golf Club, I would highly recommend it. Even if you don't play golf, just to go over there, walk over there, see some views of the city, because it's very, very cool. Go up there, have a beer at the clubhouse, and just look out on Singapore, because you can see all of this for the most part, and you're not going to pay like $22 for a beer. And too, if you want to go out and like hit a round of golf balls, I mean, people over there are super nice. I totally suck. I mean, I really suck. But still let me come in, welcome me with open arms. People are very, very friendly, very funny. Have a good sense of humor. So these lights right here, you can kind of see them. This is somewhat similar to Gardens by the Bay, but I'm not going to give any more of it away. It's a very, very cool and unique place that I've only seen in Singapore, and I don't think it exists anywhere else in the world. But it's a very, very cool combination of technology, of green energy, and of architecture, human development. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And the last time I was here, I think it was 2019 or 2018, and came through Singapore several times. I was doing my Peace Corps service in Indonesia. We flew through here and just didn't have time to leave the airport. But I came up here, geez, 3 or 4 times, changing flights, and I try to give myself at least a day. And I come here for the first time in 2011 after the big earthquake in Japan. I went to Australia and then did a tour of Southeast Asia. Went to Indonesia, went to Bali for 4 days. That's where I lost my ATM card. I showed up here penniless. I had literally nothing. I had no money. I found about, I think, 5,000 yen worth of coins in my backpack. Just scrounged them up. Went to a currency exchange booth, basically begged the girl to take them. She took them, gave me some Singapore dollars, and then got some food. And then I took a train, took the MRT to Chinatown, found a hostel, cheapest place I could find. And then from there, basically begged the hostel to let me stay for 4 days, even though I could only pay for like 1 or 2. So they basically were nice enough to do it. And then, ooh, that's a pretty shot. They basically let me stay and ended up being able to use my credit card later on. My credit card was blocked, but I had to call my bank, and it was a huge fiasco. So first time here, didn't really get to do much. Mostly spent it at my hostel trying to call my bank and freaking out that I was gonna have to go back to the States because I was basically destitute. And then the second time I came was from Korea. I came down here when I was teaching in Cheongju. Came down for 5 days, something like that. And then have come through a few other times. The longest I've spent here, I think, was 4 or 5 days at a time. But I've seen, for the most part, I've been to this part of Singapore before, Marina Bay. Last time I was here, I went to Gardens by the Bay. Seen Clarke Quay several times. It's one of my favorite places in Singapore, and actually in the world. Believe it or not, I do like cities. Love hiking and being out in the jungle or being in the mountains, but being in a city too. It's just very relaxing and very calm. I guess because it's so quiet. It's kind of eerie too, where you have all of these really nice, big, huge, beautiful buildings, and then there's not many people. You can kind of just go out and walk around, and you kind of have this weird sense of just peace. And it's like not really peace, but it's just you can walk and be completely relaxed and not have to worry about other stuff that's going on around you. We're about to Marina Bay Sands, big hotel. We'll walk by there, and then we'll make a turn and head over to Gardens by the Bay. If you like jogging, this is a really good place to jog. I haven't gone running since I've been here. Been getting up late, been lazy, getting up at 7 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock like I normally do. But next time I come back, try and get back into that routine. Get up, go for a jog in the morning. Something I would really like to do if I'm in another country or another city. Get up, go jog, go explore and see what's kind of going on, kind of get oriented with the area. I'll go up here and go around. But these are all really nice shops, and I don't have the money right now to spend on anything. Even if I did, I wouldn't buy anything in there. I see it as personally being kind of wasteful to go out and buy luxury stuff unless you're going to use it every single day and you have a genuine need for it. I don't see the need of going out and buying something that's going to cost $400 or $500. There's an exception though, like my ruck was expensive, but I use it every day, and I love the thing. These guys have done a magnificent job of actually designing the country, designing this part of Singapore, adding in some trees, so it's not just all concrete and steel. And just making it very clean. You don't have to worry about stepping on piles of cow shit or trash or dodging motorbikes. You can just go and not think about it. And in some ways you look at that and go, okay, that's a great thing to have. But once you stay in this environment for too long though, you put your guard down. Once you put your guard down, you go anywhere else, you're going to be unprepared for what comes your way. So it's like coming here and recognizing, okay, I can do this, I can take a breather, I can relax, good. Living like this for the whole entire life, in my opinion, not good. Don Henley, I have not heard that song in a very long time. Boys of Summer. And they do a very good job here, kind of blending east and west. And you have a lot more, I would say, west in terms of business environment than east. But if you go to Little India or you go to Chinatown, you still have a lot of people getting ready for Lunar New Year and Holi and some of the other traditions that each ethnic group in this country celebrates around Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. And you have big sales and stuff like that. So they do try to be very inclusive of all of the ethnicities here in Singapore. You got your big Louis Vuitton. Got your IG stars. Camera's still on. Thought it was dead. Got your cool rollerbladers. That's something that I'm kind of surprised at. There are not a lot of people here that skate. You got some people rollerblading, but they're not doing aggressive. They're not grinding. They're not jumping stairs. They're just out doing it for exercise. And growing up, I would walk around everywhere and I'd go, oh, skate spot, that handrail right there is literally, I mean, this is an awesome skate spot. You think 15 years ago, 20 years ago, daily bread, get out here. Even if you royale this, you UFO this, you do any kind of a grind, you get the shot, you get the skyline in the background, you get the UV building. I mean, you're obviously going to be mimicking. If you do something ridiculous, like a 360 topsoul, kids now are doing stuff that's a lot crazier than that, but like back when I was skating, 360 topsoul was nuts. Or like a topsoul 900 out like Brian Aragon used to do, was just absolutely nuts. Dallas. What if they give discounts for Texans? Probably not. Yeah, I wasn't born there. Sorry, y'all. Wasn't born in Texas, kind of like Hank Hill. And I hate the Cowboys too. So that's 2 strikes against me. And I'm not a fan of queso, so that's 3. Sorry, you're gonna have to send me to Arkansas or Oklahoma, or probably Oklahoma. Where you guys, y'all would throw me. I just said you guys, so that's strike 4. Oh man. I mean, this is something you go to a country like Singapore. You go to a country like India before that, and you look at human development. You look at this, and Singapore is pushing the envelope of human development. Dubai is as well. You have money, you have ingenuity, and you have support from a government or support from an organization that wants you to do your best. This is what's possible. And then you look at a country like India, where yes, you have priorities. You have the country landed on the moon last year, which is incredible. Incredible. Hats off to the Indians for doing that. But you have hundreds of millions of people that are basically eating rice and curry. They're not starving, but they don't have a lot of nutrients in their bodies. They're not able to actually live the best lives that they can. They're not able to actually get a good quality education. They're dealing with police officers that are very corrupt. They're working with local governments that are very corrupt. Local governments are fighting against governments that they see as very corrupt. So you have all of these tit-for-tat fights within India. And if you have those, you can't focus on projects like this. You're never going to do it. You can't put your domestic politics aside for a minute and go, okay, let's work together on a huge, badass project, even if it's a bridge. I mean, slowly they're starting to do it, but it's very, very slow. And it's very, very gummy and gummed up compared to here in Singapore, where everybody's pretty much been on the same team. They've kind of been forced to be on the same team, from my understanding, for pretty much the whole history of the country. But in a way, you look at it and go, okay, it's worked. The flip side of that, where everybody's forced to be on the same team, you have like Stalinism or Maoism, and it's a complete colossal failure, total failure, where you have hundreds of millions of people die because, oh yeah, we need to collectivize, we need to send all the peasants to camps where they can basically work, and we can take all the metal that we have and make pig iron, and we'll be able to outproduce the British in a handful of years. And Coldplay, you maybe hear that, but they're playing a concert tonight in Singapore, and they're right up there, up by the golf course. There you can see Marina Bay Sands, the hotel. The pool's up on top. It's just a massive, massive building. Iconic. I mean, it's one of the buildings that you look at it and you go, Singapore. You know exactly where that is. Everybody and their brother wants to get their IG shot from the pool. Which, cool, if that's what you want to do, great. That's the reason why you come to Singapore. In a way, that's very sad. It's very shallow, because you're missing out on so much here. You want to go to Singapore just to get your IG shots, do it. But on top of that, come explore the food, meet the locals, go out and see what's actually going on in this country, and learn the history of this country. Because if you come here, you will get a sense of what is not only possible, but what others have done to pave the way for you to make things possible. I mean, nobody makes it alone. That's something that I genuinely believe. Can be people that move mountains for you now, or people that move mountains for you, that have moved mountains for you in the past. Sometimes it does take that. You have to move mountains. You can't be afraid to. And if you are, then you gotta wake up every day and fight that fear. Keep fighting tooth and nail. And don't give up. Because the second you give up, the second the world may change and it may never be what it could be. Got a really cool gym here, man. Jump and touch, hang ladder, stretch your back. You can do some pull-ups, Aussie pull-ups, sit-ups, virtually everything. And it's free too, which is the best part about it. Oh, kettlebell's nice. I'm actually gonna hit this up. I know you guys don't want to watch me work out, nor do you care. But we're about here, Gardens by the Bay. You can see right over there. It's something that looks like it's straight out of a sci-fi novel. It probably is. The last time I was here, I was with my students from Korea. So my school did a study tour in Southeast Asia. I got to accompany them for, it was only 4 or 5 days, but we spent a day and a half here in Singapore. It was just absolutely mad in terms of what we tried to get done. And it was very, very just go, 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 go. And I like traveling like that, but it was just too much. If you're by yourself, you can do it. If you're with a group of 108 high school kids, it's very, very hard to do. Even though everybody wants to do everything, just the logistics. It's very, very challenging. So, came over here, got to see this with some of my students, and that was a very, very cool experience, and my coworkers as well. They got satay, by the way. It's probably really good. Oh man, it smells good. And this is just, it's kind of peaceful. You can come out, you can have a think, and walk around, get some air, get some exercise. And it's like you can't really do that in a lot of other places, especially at 11:15 at night. I mean, 11:15 at night, you're out walking around, you're a target, or you're basically crazy. And here in Singapore, like, people out working out, couples hanging out, I'm doing my thing. Probably, you know, families and stuff like that too, maybe a few of them. You gotta hand it off. You've gotta hand it to these guys. Hats off to the Singaporeans. They've done a good job. They should be very proud of the work that they did. In turning this little island that was pretty backwoods into very, very, very beautiful canvas of human development and ingenuity and essentially money. But everything comes with time. And this wasn't just a 1-year project or a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. It was very, very, very long-winded development program that Lee Kuan Yew started, and then his son now is kind of in charge of. And then we'll see in the next 20 years, 15 years, how the country changes. So, we've made it to Gardens by the Bay. Y'all can probably hear some of the wildlife. Yes, there are some wild animals here. but still very safe. And with that, I am gonna start to sign off. Thank you very much for spending part of your day with me. Thanks for coming to Singapore. If you do decide to visit here, shoot me a message, let me know. I'd be glad to help you figure out the best flights or plan your trip. If you don't need a ton of time to see Singapore, and if you're going somewhere else in Southeast Asia, especially to Indonesia or to Malaysia, this is a very, very good first place to come get over jet lag, get your feet wet, get kind of acclimated to the food, to the weather, because that's going to be somewhat similar. Pollution in Indonesia is a whole nother level. Pollution in Malaysia is similar. It's not as bad as Indonesia, but still it can take some adjusting to. And come out, visit this corner of the world. Get out there, do something incredible, not only with your day, but with your life. And with that, Marina Bay Sands in the background. I'm gonna sign off for now. Have a good night, y'all. Take care. All right, so we're back. One last thing. So, to all y'all in the year of the dragon, all the best in health, in wealth. Make your dreams come true. Get up every day. Do something better. Do something to better yourself and to better those around you. And you will make it happen. 恭喜发财. Yeah, my tones suck ass. Alright, so we're still here by Gardens by the Bay. So you've got the very, very big and massive Marina Bay Sands Hotel. And then you have this right here. It's kind of an outdoor kind of walking path. I'm gonna try and get up on that bridge. Last time I was here, I got up there. I don't remember how I did, but maybe jump in the water and climb the poles. That's one way, right? Yeah, this is just another view of Gardens by the Bay. It's absolutely incredible being here. There's nowhere else in the world like this. So you come to Singapore, you have to visit this place. Absolutely have to. It's incredible. And this is not even going up to the top of the hotel. You jump. All right. So we're walking across the Jubilee Bridge right here. Got Merlion downtown over there. Fullerton Hotel. Marina Bay Sands over there. Got a full moon kind of coming out. Maybe it's half, 3/4. I don't really know. Should be paying attention more to that. Going over here. We're not going to go over there because that's the long way back. We're going to kind of cheat. Go over here and then work my way back. So, I have not been to this part of Singapore in a very long time. I think 2011 was the last time I came over here. First visit, first or second day, when I had no money. I was like, what can I do for free? I can walk around. So basically walked around and I had my credit card, and I think you could use my credit card at McDonald's, and there were a couple of other places. Virtually everything else was cash. So pretty much eating McDonald's for 4 days. It's kind of a shame because like you come to Singapore and there's a lot of really good local food, hawkers and stuff like that. And what I remember, couldn't use my card, so it was Mickey D's, big chains. But glad to be here now where you can. And shit. Well, should have probably taken that bridge because I need to go to the left. And maybe I can sneak over, but probably not. Is that a stairway down? That is a stairway down. Excellent. Alright. Thank you, urban planners, for saving my ass and saving me 10 minutes. You're getting me 10 more minutes of sleep. I appreciate it. Oh. But yeah, it's very, very quiet and peaceful being here at night in Singapore. You got a few locals, maybe some tourists out jogging or biking. But this is my favorite time to explore a city, because this is really the city itself at night. I mean, during the day it's packed. You got all the people coming in for work. Virtually every other city in the world that I've been in, there would be somebody that's homeless or somebody that's just camping out because they don't want to have a home under one of these bridges. And here, it's not the case. I think there are officially probably a few homeless people. If so, it's very, very, very small in number. It's been one of the biggest shocks for me coming from India to here. It's just the grounds. This is perfect. You look at the construction here, the way they actually built the pathway and the causeway and the bridges and everything. It's perfect. It's seamless. It's very, very well done. It's very well taken care of. It's very, very comfortable to walk on, and it's very safe. And it is kind of sterile. You go to India and you maybe have a few pieces of pavement or footpath, whatever you call it, that are decent. The rest of them absolutely beat to shit. And most of the clean ones have cow turds on them for some reason. I don't know why. Or trash. Or a tuk-tuk driver dropping his pants and making a deposit on the side of the road. This is the total opposite. Complete opposite. You could go to some place like Somalia or probably now Gaza and see the other opposite of just poverty everywhere. India does have poverty, but it's not everywhere. Singapore, I think, officially has a few people that are maybe below the poverty line. I would have to look this up. There's got to be a few people in this country that are in poverty, but it's got to be so small. And I would think they're probably foreign workers that come here that basically get screwed over by their employer, and then the government would work to weed those employers out so it doesn't happen again, because that makes the country look really bad. Could be wrong though. And two, your salary here should be tied to your visa, where if you get a certain visa, then you're guaranteed a certain salary. So in theory, nobody who's foreign here should be in poverty, but I'm sure it happens. And you've got human trafficking, and you've got people coming here to work illegally, obviously. And that happens everywhere in the world. But I think here it is more well-regulated, more policed, and there are still problems. I mean, I haven't been to Gaylong or I haven't been to Orchard Street, but I would imagine Orchard's probably okay now. Gaylong probably getting rougher, or yeah, you maybe have more women coming in to work over there. You probably have domestic servants and stuff as well that are not well taken care of. And that's always a problem in every country where they're going to work, whether it's the Middle East or here or Hong Kong or the States. So you're always going to have problems regardless of how much wealth you have. It's just part of living in a country and part of living in society. The problems are just going to be different. I would imagine here, though, you've got a big mental health problem. A lot of people here, I would think, probably are going through either depression or stress, or like serious culture shock when they leave. But I don't know. I would have to spend a lot more time here to really find out. And having local friends is awesome. I love my Singaporean friends. Super to have them. Super happy to have them. I'm super fortunate to have them in my life. But it's just a small piece of the pie. And you can't judge the whole entire thing on just a couple of people that you know pretty well. Or really well, I should say. You've got to get out there and meet people from every single part of Singaporean society. Rich, poor, Chinese, Malay, Eurasian, Indian, new immigrants, old immigrants, PRs, foreigners, backpackers, virtually everybody that comes here. Get to know what their story is and how Singapore has made its place in their story. How long is the Singapore chapter? Is it a page? Is it a paragraph? Or is it a whole volume of their life? And I would think for most foreigners, it's probably a couple of pages, maybe a chapter. Some it might be longer, depending on when they came, how long they've been here. But I would think for most locals, this is their whole book. And they maybe have a couple of pages here and there, maybe something from Australia or the UK, or possibly Taiwan or China or Korea or Japan. They've done study abroad somewhere. Seems to be really common here. But I would think most of them come back. And this is home for all of them. I mean, it's the same for me in the States. Like, ultimately, yeah, I am American. Could I live outside the US again? Yes, I could. But I never thought I would be saying this 10 years ago. America is home. And regardless of how long I'm gone, you come back and the place is totally different. The people are totally different. The mindset's totally different. Geography's totally different. So find a way to love it. And I think that's what a lot of people have problems with now, is they don't want to put in that effort to try and love where they are. They just show up and go, it sucks, and I don't want to be here, and I hate it, and get me out, put me somewhere else. For the love of God, put me somewhere else. And to me, it's really sad, because you're basically throwing away your whole entire life. And I wanted to do that probably 7 or 8 years ago. Like, okay, I'm gonna leave and I'm not gonna come back. After Peace Corps, I went to Korea, and my plan was, okay, I'm just gonna stay in Korea for a very, very long time. And sure enough, yeah, I got my job there, applied for grad school. They wanted me to go, but it would have been very, very hard for me to actually use my degree from Korean university, even though it's from a top Korean university in the US, just because you've got to deal with accreditation, you've got to deal with language barrier and translation and stuff like that. And yeah, being a foreigner, I could get in and I'd be able to do my classes in English, which would be very nice and very helpful. But ultimately, after being in Korea for 5 years of my life, working there for 5 years, 2 and then 3, it's a decent place to be. It's an awesome place to visit. Love my Korean friends, and Korea will always have a special place in my heart. The people that I met there will also have a very special place in my heart, but ultimately it's not my home. And I think a lot of people, and I was like this when I was young, very, very idealistic, and thought I can just jump ship and go anywhere I want because I can. You can for a short time. You definitely can for a short time. But long-term acceptance is something that is very, very hard to find. And it's something that I think is almost impossible, because regardless of where you are, the world is going to continue, and your world is going to continue at some point without you, whether you're there for a long time or you're there for a short time. You can do everything you can to make yourself an integral part. You should, but you just have to recognize and realize that everything that you want to do, you can do, but everything that you want to do after you're gone is probably not going to be happening. It's not going to be sustainable. And it sucks. But at the same time, you've got to recognize everybody has their own life, they have their own dreams and their own priorities. And if theirs don't match up with yours, they're not going to get done. So,
What?
the difficult part of my life. I was up there myself, just being young and naive, and thinking that whatever I do,
Little lad.
anything that I do, it's basically going to come easy, and it's going to last forever. It's like being young, it's like being happy. And like, ultimately, you're only going to find it in yourself. You're not going to find it in another country. You might find yourself in another country. You're going to have to be the person that you wake up to every day and look in the mirror. And I think that's the first, for me, first thing that I realized of what's actually going to make me happy. What's actually going to make me feel good. If I'm waking up every day and I'm not happy with myself, I really only have one person to blame, me. Being from the background that I am, being American, having the ability to travel the world, having the ability to choose largely what I want to do with my life. If I'm not happy with it, it's my fault. And yes, things are not always going to be perfect for me. But ultimately, if I don't like something, if I want something to change, and I want it to change quickly, I'm going to have to change it. If I wait for somebody else to. So.
What?
The difficult part of my life. I was up there myself, just being young and naive, and thinking that whatever I do,
Little lad.
anything that I do, it's basically going to come easy, and it's going to last forever. It's like being young, it's like being happy. And like, ultimately, you're only going to find it in yourself. You're not going to find it in another country. You might find yourself in another country. You're going to have to be the person that you wake up to every day and look in the mirror. And I think that's the first, for me, first thing that I realized of what's actually going to make me happy. What's actually going to make me feel good. If I'm waking up every day and I'm not happy with myself, I really only have one person to blame, me. Being from the background that I am, being American, having the ability to travel the world, having the ability to choose largely what I want to do with my life. If I'm not happy with it, it's my fault. And yes, things are not always going to be perfect for me. But ultimately, if I don't like something, if I want something to change, and I want it to change quickly, I'm going to have to change it.